The 1960s was a time of wild toys and even wilder childhood memories. Today we're diving into the most dangerous toys ever made. Super elastic bubble plastic, creepy crawlers, little lady stove, jarts, and the notorious water wiggle. Stick around because you won't believe we actually survived playing with these. Creepy crawlers. Remember creepy crawlers? That metal tray got super hot, and we poured in gooey stuff to make little rubber bugs. It smelled like burning plastic, but we thought it was the coolest thing ever. No safety, just fun and a few burns. Crazy, right? What toy brings back memories like that for you? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear. 1960s chemistry set. Those old chemistry sets were wild. Tiny bottles of colorful powders. No gloves, no goggles. We mixed them up, hoping for smoke or a little boom. It smelled weird, but we felt like real scientists. Looking back then, it was kinda dangerous, but so much fun. Lawn darts. Lawn darts. Big, heavy darts we'd toss way up in the air, hoping no one walked underneath. The thunk when it hit the ground still sticks in my head. Super dangerous, but back then we called it fun. How did we survive? What toy made you feel brave? Clacker balls. Remember clacker balls? Two hard plastic balls on a string.
In hoog tempo balletjes en koordjes aan elkaar knopen en in een plastic zakje doen. Maar deze geluidsvervuilers zijn niet de enige.
Clack, 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 right near your face. And they were loud, fast, and sometimes they broke and flew everywhere. But man, we loved them. It felt like a game and a challenge. Mercury from thermometers. Back then, if a thermometer broke, we didn't freak out. We'd roll that shiny silver ball of mercury around like it was magic. It felt cool and smooth, so fun to play with, even though it was kinda dangerous. Can you believe we did that? What toy sticks in your memory like that? Tell us your favorite in the comments. Metal spring horse. Back in the day, kids rode huge plastic horses mounted on heavy metal springs. Those things bounced like crazy, creaking loud enough for the whole block to hear. But those thick springs? Well, super risky. If anyone got too close while it bounced, a spring could snap back hard. Still, it was hours of fun, pretending to gallop through wild adventures. Hard to believe that was just a normal toy. Have you ever seen one of these wild rides in action? If it jogs a memory, share it down below. We'd love to hear your story. Old roller skates with a key. Roller skates back then weren't like today's. They were metal and strapped onto your shoes with a little key. No helmets, no pads, just you flying down the sidewalk until a skate popped off mid-ride. Wobbly ankles, scraped knees, and plenty of crashes came with the fun.
They feature a lot of things that aren't on modern skates, like the following.
So here's a standard roller skate here.
But when it worked, it felt like flying. Simple, risky fun from a different time. Ever strapped on those skates? If this sparked a memory, go ahead and share it with us in the comments. Dippity glass. Dippity glass was all the rage. Kids shaped wire into flowers or butterflies, then dipped it in colorful liquid that dried like glass. It smelled funny, probably toxic, but nobody cared back then. The final piece looked like little stained glass art projects. It was crafty, messy, and probably super unsafe, but creating something so shiny and colorful felt magical. Ever make something like this as a kid? If that brings back any memories, feel free to share your story below. We'd love to hear it. Cherry bombs. Cherry bombs were tiny red explosives that packed a serious punch. Kids lit them, tossed them in cans or down drains, and waited for that loud boom to shake the block. Sometimes it sent metal flying, sometimes just scared everyone half to death. Can you imagine kids having those today? Different times for sure. If you've got any wild firework memories or crazy stories from back then, we're all ears. Go ahead and share it down below. .22 rifle. There was a time when it wasn't shocking to see kids handed a real .22 caliber rifle. Learning gun safety was part of growing up for some, aiming at cans, trying to be the best shot on the block.
It came with this Tasco pronghorn 4-power scope, which I took off, and I took off the original.
Looking back now, It feels wild, but back then, it was just another toy for some families. You ever see or remember anything like that growing up? If this unlocks a memory, drop it down in the comments. We'd love to hear. Clackers. Clackers were two hard plastic balls attached to a string, swinging up and down until they smashed together with a loud clack, clack, clack. Getting them to go fast was the goal, but it was risky. Sometimes they'd shatter or fly right at someone's face. Somehow, that just made it more fun. Simple, loud, and weirdly dangerous. Did you ever mess with something like this? If it brings a memory rushing back, toss it in the comments. We're ready to hear your story. Wood-burning set. The old wood-burning sets were basically a hot metal pen plugged into the wall. Kids used them to burn drawings into little wooden boards. It smelled like scorched wood, filled the room with smoke, and one wrong move meant burned fingers. Still, it felt like making real art. Dangerous, yes, but unforgettable. What toy had you making things and risking a burn? If something comes to mind, share your story down below. We'd love to hear it. Wrist Rocket Slingshot. The Wrist Rocket Slingshot wasn't just any slingshot. It strapped to your arm, giving you crazy power. Rocks, marbles, anything small enough got launched across the yard, sometimes through windows.
Hi everyone, Sky Living Off Grid here. Today I just want to show you my newest addition to my bug out bag. This here is a TrueMark brand.
It felt like having a superpower, but let's be real, it was risky. One wrong aim and something or someone was toast. Know a toy that made you feel invincible like that? Well, we'd love to hear your childhood stories. Go ahead and share them in the comments. Easy Bake Oven and Big Wheel. Easy Bake Ovens cooked little cakes with a light bulb. Yes, a real light bulb. The cakes weren't great, but that didn't stop anyone. Then there was the Big Wheel, a plastic trike kids rode down streets with 0 brakes, flying fast and fearless. Scraped knees were guaranteed. Both toys screamed 70s freedom. What toy gave you that wild, carefree feeling as a kid? If this rings any bells, we'd love to hear your stories. Drop them down below in the comments. Radiation Science Kit. Some science kits back then came with actual radioactive samples, tiny Geiger counters, and materials that would never pass safety rules today. Kids loved building the kits, waving the sensors around and being amazed when it clicked near the samples or even their glow-in-the-dark watches. Looking back, it's wild how normal that seemed. Imagine being handed radioactive stuff for fun learning. Ever see or hear about crazy science toys like that? If this brought back a memory, we'd love to hear your story. Feel free to share it in the comments. Johnny Reb Cannon. There was a toy cannon called the Johnny Reb.
The cannon's name is Johnny Reb. Hurrah, hurrah.
It fired baseball-sized plastic cannonballs with surprising force. Stories floated around of kids getting hit, black eyes, bruises, even hospital trips. Still, firing that cannon felt like playing soldier for real. Hard to believe something like that sat under Christmas trees back then. Did you ever see toys that shot stuff like this? If this jogged your memory, we'd love to hear your story. Share it down below. Super Elastic Bubble Plastic. Super Elastic Bubble Plastic came in tubes of goo. Kids would blob it on a straw, then blow huge, colorful bubbles that lasted way longer than regular ones. The smell? Well, pure chemicals, acetone and glue, and probably super unsafe. Still, kids chewed the popped pieces or tried to reinflate them. Crazy to think we played with stuff like that, hey? Ever mess with weird bubble toys like these? If that sparked a memory, share your story in the comments. Pocket knife, mumbly peg. Back then, it wasn't strange to see kids with pocket knives playing mumbly peg, tossing knives at the ground or trying to land them perfectly in the dirt. Simple, but risky. A few cuts or scraped knuckles were part of the game. Today it sounds wild, but back then it was just another afternoon outside. Ever play games like this? If it brings back any memories, go ahead and share your story below. Rock collection with asbestos. Believe it or not, some rock collections for kids included asbestos samples.
Much more rigid, needle-like. This is chrysotolite, a blue asbestos.
The fun part? peeling the layers off like paper. No one knew or cared how dangerous it was. And if a thermometer broke, well, rolling mercury around felt like the coolest thing ever. Different times for sure. Can you imagine that now? If this reminds you of any wild toys or science sets, feel free to share your memory in the comments. We're all ears. Bag of glass. Some joke goes around about a bag of glass being the worst toy idea, but there were actual toys that came close. Shards, sharp edges, and little pieces that could cut your hands. Yet somehow we played with them totally fine. Just part of growing up back then. Ever get your hands on a toy that was dangerous? If this made you think of something, feel free to share your story down below. We'd love to hear. Straw balloons. Those straw balloon kits were everywhere. A tube of sticky, chemical-smelling goo. You'd roll it into a ball, stick it on a straw, and blow. The balloons came out colorful, wobbly, and way more fun than regular ones. The smell, though? You knew that you were breathing in something not safe. Still, it felt like magic. Ever blow one of these? If this brings back memories, go ahead and share them. Barrel pump BB gun. The old barrel pump BB guns were no joke. Pump hard enough, and that thing could shoot fast and dangerously. Kids would set up targets or just, well, shoot at stuff they probably shouldn't have.
It's a Legacy 1000. This is from Crossman. It will shoot pellets and or BBs.
Some even managed to shoot themselves. Looking back, it's wild we had access to things like that. Ever see one of these in action? If this unlocks a memory, don't hold back. Drop your story in the comments. We're listening. Lead soldier kits. Imagine melting lead bars just to make your own toy soldier. That was a real kit back then. Kids would pour molten metal into molds, then paint the figures afterward. Some even chewed on the leftover lead bits. Oh, of course, there were lawn darts too, heavy, sharp, and straight up dangerous. How did we survive? If this reminds you of those wild days, go ahead and share your childhood story below. We'd love to hear it. Incredible Edible Cookie Cake Machine. The Incredible Edible Cookie Cake Machine let kids bake weird, colorful treats. It heated up like crazy, filling the room with a sweet, plasticky smell. Sure, you could eat the creations, but were you supposed to? Who knows? It was part toy and part science experiment, and every kid felt like a chef. Well, until something burned. Ever remember toys that mixed food and danger like this? Share your funny and crazy memories below. Three-wheeler. Three-wheelers were everywhere back then. Giant, loud, and fast.
The Goliath had rear-wheel drive. It was marketed as a quick delivery van, but the vehicle is anything but quick.
Kids raced through fields, dirt roads, and backyards. No helmets, no safety gear. Those things flipped easily, but no one cared. It felt like the coolest ride ever. Looking back, it's wild how dangerous they really were. Stories of wipeouts and close calls were just part of the fun. Did you grow up around one of these? Hot Wheels Factory. Hot Wheels had a factory set where kids could melt plastic and mold their own toy cars. The smell of melting plastic filled the air, and burns were almost guaranteed. But kids loved it. Making something from scratch felt like magic. Looking back, it's wild how hot that little thing got. Would anyone sell that today? Doubt it. Ever see a toy like this in action? Cereal box toys. Back then, cereal wasn't just breakfast. It was a treasure hunt. Tiny toys hid inside every box, waiting to be discovered. Sometimes it was a plastic car, sometimes something sharp or breakable, straight into a kid's hands. No choking hazard labels, just surprise fun with every bowl. It made cereal time an adventure. Do you remember digging through the box for that prize? Light bulb oven experiments. Some toys looked harmless, like a kid's oven powered by a giant light bulb. But give it a few minutes, and that light bulb turned into a mini furnace.
It's mostly just orange, and I guess that's probably what
it started out purple, though.
Yeah, it did. I wonder if that's just whatever.
Some kids couldn't resist testing. What else could they cook? Plastic army men, crayons, you name it. One bad idea later, and the whole house smelled like burning plastic. Ever remember doing something like that? Chemistry set, wood burning. Some kids had it all. A chemistry set, a wood-burning kit, and lawn darts. One day you're mixing potions, the next you're burning wood, then dodging sharp darts flying through the air. Somehow, it was all just called playtime. No one thought twice about safety. Looking back, it's kind of amazing how normal that was. Do you remember playing with anything like this? Blinky Box, AC-powered baby toys. There were toys back then that plugged into the wall, like the Blinky Box. A wooden box with lights, soundtracks, and switches. It ran on actual AC power. Imagine a toddler playing with something like that today. Back then, it felt high-tech and fun. We've come a long way when it comes to toy safety. Ever see toys like this in old family photos? If it rings a bell, share your memories. We're all ears. Fireworks for kids. Once upon a time, kids bought fireworks for themselves. Big ones, too. Firecrackers, rockets, even stuff that looked like sticks of dynamite. Losing a finger or getting burned was part of the risk, but lighting those fuses and running? Pure thrill. Eventually, they were burned, but the memories stuck around. Do you remember those days or ever hear the stories? Slap bracelets. Slap bracelets looked harmless. Colorful bands you slapped on your wrist and they'd curl around tight. But after a while, the cheap plastic cracked, revealing sharp metal edges. Kids ended up with scratches or worse. Still, everyone had one. They were everywhere, from playgrounds to classrooms. Simple, fun, and a little dangerous. Did slap bracelets make the rounds when you were a kid? If this unlocked a memory, we'd love to hear your story. Sparklers. Sparklers. Everyone had them during 4th of July celebrations. They looked harmless, but those little sticks burned hotter than you'd believe. Hot enough to melt gold. Kids ran around waving them, writing their names in the air, with no idea how dangerous they really were. But man, those nights felt magical. The glow, the smell of smoke. It's hard to forget. Ever have a memory like that? Share your sparkler story down below. Chemistry set with fire tricks. Some chemistry sets back in the 1950s came with stuff like boric acid, perfect for lighting on fire to see green flames. Kids even had little boats you'd light candles in and float in the tub, because what could go wrong? The smell of matches, little burns, and the thrill of experimenting, well, it all felt normal. Ever mess with toys that involved real fire? If this takes you back, share your memories down below. My first DUI kit, toy. Believe it or not, there was a toy kit that came with a fake breathalyzer, toy handcuffs, and toy shot glasses called My First DUI Kit. Wild, right? It was a joke, but stuff like that really existed.
I need your help.
Okay.
Looking back, it's crazy that was sold as toys back then. Ever stumble on a toy or game that would never be allowed today? If you did, share that memory in the comments for us. Miniature cigarette lighter, knife souvenir. Once, you could get a working mini cigarette lighter from a gumball machine, or buy a souvenir ribbon that came with a real knife attached to it. Stuff that was sharp ended up in kids' hands without a second thought. Different times, right? Crazy to think how normal it was back then. Ever remember toys or souvenirs like that? If so, share your wildest childhood finds down in the comments. Missile-firing robot toys. Some toys back then shot plastic missiles, like Danguard Ace. Press a button and boom, a missile launched straight across the room. There are even stories of kids accidentally hitting parents right in the face. But at the time, that was just a sign of a cool toy. Can you imagine the chaos now? Did you ever come across a toy like this? If it sparked a memory, share it down below. We'd love to read it. Vacuform toy. The Vacuform let kids heat thin plastic sheets until they melted, then mold them into shapes. It sounded like magic, but felt like a burn waiting to happen. That thing got hot. Kids still loved watching the plastic bend and bubble, even if fingers got singed a little bit. Looking back, it's wild that was a normal toy. Ever run into toys like this? If this brings back a memory for you, share your story down below. Cap guns with real bangs. Cap guns in the 1950s weren't just toys, they packed the real bang. Tiny amounts of powder inside made a loud pop and even gave off smoke. Some even came as belt buckles, like a Bat Masterson Derringer. Kids would hammer a pile of caps just to make it explode. The smell of gunpowder was unforgettable. Looking back, it's wild how close we played with stuff like that. Ever play with cap guns? If so, share your wildest cap gun memory in the comments. Gilbert Atomic Energy Lab with uranium. Believe it or not, there was once a toy lab that came with real uranium samples. The Gilbert U-238 Atomic Energy Lab that let kids play like scientists. Geiger counters, radioactive materials, the works. Wild, right?
But so cool. We have a little magnifying glass.
Back then it felt educational. Today it sounds insane. But for curious kids, it was the coolest science kit ever. Ever heard stories of this one or other wild science kits? If so, feel free to share them. Gas-powered Stuka dive bomber toy. Some toys were practically mini weapons. A gas-powered Stuka dive bomber toy had a little engine that fired up, propeller spinning, loud and ready to fly. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it took a nosedive straight into the pavement. Kids walked away with cuts and bruises, but that was part of the thrill. Ever see a toy like this in action? If that stirred up any memories, drop them in the comments below. G.I. Joe Paratrooper doll, airpuff gun. Some toys were a full adventure, like a G.I. Joe doll you launched into the sky with a slingshot. Half the time the parachute didn't open and that doll came crashing down. Others had air-powered guns. Kids figured out that if you plugged the barrel with dirt, it became a little shotgun. Crazy, right? Toys were simple back then, but risky. Super elastic bubble plastic. Super elastic bubble plastic was every kid's dream and every parent's nightmare. It looked like bubble fun. But was really just a plastic-filled science experiment. You'd squeeze out the goo, roll it into a ball, and blow huge colorful bubbles with a straw. The catch? It reeked of chemicals packed with glue and nail polish remover fumes. One wrong breath and you were inhaling pure toxins. Still, we sat around to make the biggest bubble possible, giggling while puffing toxic clouds. Nobody thought about safety back then. That was just how we played. By the 1980s, it got pulled off shelves, but not before a whole generation had breathed that stuff in. Looking back, it's wild we survived toys like this. Did you ever play with something that seemed fun but was totally dangerous? Drop your favorite memory in the comments. We'd love to hear your wild toy stories. Little Lady Stove. The Little Lady Stove looked adorable. A miniature oven just for kids. But it packed way more heat than most real ovens. This little toy reached a scorching 600 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than most stoves even need to go. The idea was simple. Kids could bake their own little treats. The reality? Burns, blisters, and a lot of worried parents. At one point, officials even tried to ban it because it just got too powerful. But back then, handing a kid a toy that got red hot was just part of growing up.
Get everything out so we can see it piece by piece. A little ladle spoon, look at that.
We learned fast. Touched the stove, got burned. Still, there was something cool about having your own mini oven until someone forgot the mitts. Ever have a toy that got way hotter than it should have? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what risky toys you remember from your childhood. Water Wiggle. Water Wiggle looked harmless. Just a summer toy connected to the garden hose, right? But once that water turned on, it became a wild, thrashing snake. Kids shrieked with laughter as it whipped around, until it hit someone hard. Sometimes it wrapped around your legs or even your neck, squeezing tight while spraying water everywhere. More than a few kids left the yard with bruises or worse. One kid even died after the metal nozzle got loose. Whammo made it, same company behind the slip and slide, so you know it was chaotic. But on a hot summer day, We loved it. We just didn't think about how dangerous it really was until someone screamed. It's wild how many of our childhood toys could double as weapons, right? Ever had a water toy that got out of control? Drop your wildest summer toy memory in the comments below. Swing Wing. Swing Wing. Yep, it was like a hula hoop, but for your head. Strap it on, give it a swing, and twist your neck like a maniac. It looked goofy, felt exhausting, and probably caused more sore necks than we'll ever know.
Down or shoot down radar, as well as the first to have side-mounted air intakes.
Invented in 1965, the whole point was to spin that thing as fast as you could. But let's be honest, nobody knew what they were doing. Half the time, you'd get dizzy, whack yourself, or stumble into the nearest wall. It was chaotic fun, for sure, but probably responsible for more headaches and neck strains than anything else in the toy aisle. Can you imagine a toy like that being sold today? Ever had a toy that left you spinning? Drop your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear. Six Finger. Six Finger was exactly what it sounds like. A fake sixth finger that doubled as a secret toy gun. You'd slide it over your real finger and boom! You were a secret agent. The finger launched darts, bullets, and even secret messages. Sounds fun, right? But yeah, it was still a toy gun disguised as a body part. What could go wrong, right? Shooting little projectiles straight at your friends' faces was the norm. Nobody wore goggles. Nobody thought about safety. We just lined up targets and started blasting. Today, there is no way a toy like this would make it past shelves. But back then, it was the coolest thing ever. We felt like spies, superheroes, and villains all at once. Ever had a toy that made you feel way cooler than you were? Share your story down in the comments. We'd love to hear it.
Glowed as a ballpoint pen and signals in code. Looks like a finger so no one can see.
Luscious Limbs. Luscious Limbs. Yeah, the name says it all. This toy let kids make edible body parts. You'd pour candy mix into molds shaped like hands, feet, even ears, then bake it, pop it out, and eat it. Creepy, right? The weirdest part? Kids loved it. There was something wild about chomping on a sugary finger or biting off an ear, but you had to wonder, what chemicals were in that mix? How safe was it really? Back then, nobody asked. We just giggled and gnawed on candy toes. It's one of those toys that makes you go, what were we thinking about? But hey, it was the 60s. Things were different. Ever had a toy that felt more weird than fun? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your wildest, weirdest childhood toy memories. And there you have it, some of the most dangerously fun toys from the 1960s. It's crazy to think how far we've come from melting plastic, dodging lawn darts, or breathing in toxic fumes, all in the name of fun. But honestly, those toys gave us some of the wildest childhood memories, scrapes, burns, and all. Super elastic bubble plastic had us blowing bubbles filled with chemicals. Creepy crawlers turned us into little mad scientists with hot plates. The little lady stove hot enough to roast a turkey. Jarts, sharp metal darts flying through the air. And Water Wiggle, a hose-powered chaos machine. If you grew up with any of these, or know someone who did, drop your story in the comments. What was the most dangerous toy you remember? We'd love to hear your craziest memories. If you enjoyed this nostalgic trip, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends, especially the ones who grew up in the same wild era. Hit that bell so you never miss a trip down memory lane.